We're going to storm the Capitol.
You look like Fred Flintstone.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is. Old Grand Poobah. You want this if you're headed to DC, Michael?
I think we're live now.
That's good. Okay, we'll call the committee of the whole meeting for January 11th to order at 12:32 p.m. Ask for a motion from Councillor Cooey that the committee of the whole adopt the agenda for the committee of the whole meeting January 11th, 2021 as presented.
I will give you that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion is carried. Ask for a motion from Councillor McMillan that the committee of the whole adopt the minutes from the committee of the whole meeting for December 14th, 2020 as presented.
Be that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion carries. And we're off to the letter of support with Kara.
Perfect. So good afternoon, committee. The purpose of this report is to receive committee of the whole's direction in regards to the development of a letter of support policy. In August, administration received direction from council to refer the development of the letter of support policy, pardon me, my dogs are howling in the background, to committee of the whole. Administration has prepared the draft letter of support policy that is attached to the agenda. The proposed policy provides criteria from when the mayor can sign letters of support on his own that do not have a financial implication. Letters of support that have a financial implication would be referred to community economic development to be circulated to all of the other departments and divisions before they go to council for decision. I'd like to walk you through the questions that are set out in the CDR and obtain your feedback. So is committee of the whole supportive of streamlining the organizational approval process in regards to letter of support?
Or we're just glad that your horse doesn't live in the house with you.
Kara, can you repeat that question? Things were kind of just broke up on me here for a second.
Oh, so sorry. I just said, is committee of the whole supportive of streamlining the organizational approval process for letters of support?
Comments from council? I think everybody's nodding their head. Makes sense. Yes.
So the next question is, does committee of the whole support delegating the authority to the mayor to sign letters of support that have no financial obligation?
That's a scary venture.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now all the hands pop up. That got their attention. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass, and thank you very much, Kara. I guess the only concern I have about this is just ensuring that each councillor is in the loop, because I am going to refer to kind of what started this formal policy was, for example, the West Winds letter about the nomination. There was absolutely no financial implication involved with that. But if, for example, if Mayor Snodgrass can go ahead and just process these without us knowing, even I couldn't help but think, well, with me being the council rep, I wouldn't know that that actually had been followed through with until then hearing from the CAO of West Winds, perhaps. So that's just where I have a problem with it, is that we wouldn't all be in the loop necessarily.
So maybe how we could kind of rectify that is just add a circulation process and just to make sure that it's clear that anything that's signed does come to the attention of council, because we did capture if they're not approved, but we can certainly make sure that's captured as well.
I think that would be nice, Kara, because that way we're just, we get the copy and we know what's going on, so that even when we're approached by people to say thanks for that, we don't have that blank look about what's going on. So thanks.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in with one other concern I have with doing that, Kara, is that the last thing that we want, whether it's me in the mayor's chair or anybody else, that this position's personal opinion on anything affects a letter that's going out on the behalf of all of council. We all don't agree on everything exactly all the time. So it's, what were the eyebrows about there, Masterman? You know, I just want to make sure that, like you say, the circulation, however that does before it is signed, I think is important, because it's very easy to have your own personal viewpoints brought into this when it's supposed to be a council thing. So I'll just throw that out there. Next question, Councillor Masterman.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. So, no, I think that's a great idea that they all get circulated. I do like the fact that if there's any financial repercussion to the town, that it actually goes through community economic development, whoever that is, because I'm a little unclear. But I also think it's because I think it's to do it any other way is also putting a huge pressure on the mayor to you know, to do this, but just on what he thinks. And but I think it's interesting that although West Winds was kind of the one that prompted this policy review and new policy, the one that was the most controversial actually came from a corporation, and I really do like the fact that there are some that just won't be written like to corporations, because I don't think that's our role. And but we covered that at the time, and we had a pretty good email discussion about that, and you know, and religious groups and the other exemptions that are clearly indicated in this policy. You know, you know, if there, you know, if we did get one from a corporation, you know, according to this policy, it doesn't even come to us. It's just not done because it's not in the policy. And I imagine if any of the councillors felt strongly enough that we should be, it would be up to them to bring it up at an open council meeting so that we can have a full and open discussion about it. But I just like the fact that we don't do that. And that's not our role. Our role is to support the community and community groups, you know, not individual corporations. So anyway, no, thanks. Thanks very much, Kara, for this.
Councillor Moore.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kara. The concern that I had was not so much with our present council, because we're fairly aligned with the mayor on most issues, but for future councils, which would be taking this same policy before it could be amended, that you, in a lot of municipalities, they have a rogue mayor that is not in alignment of personal opinions on certain subjects with everybody. And we could find ourselves in that situation sometime in the future, and there'd be no support from council for that.
Councillor Cooey.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass, and thanks, Kara. I'm kind of the same thinking. I mean, the West Wind ones I think was a no-brainer, but they're not always going to be that simple of a conversation, and maybe it is important. I think it is important to have everybody chime in My question, Kara, just looking at the details of this, in the letter of support, it talks about, is this funding for a town facility or will there be ongoing costs to the town? I guess my thinking is if it's that connected to a town facility or a town program, it should have been in conversations with us long before a letter of support. I guess I'm struggling a little bit of how anyone is applying for anything that we aren't already aware of. And so I was struggling a little bit with that in this document.
There we go. Okay, so sorry. So the intention of that is to let people know you need to be in consultation with us well in advance before you start coming forward and asking for some sort of financial contribution or support for something that's going to affect a town project. And just to loop back to Councillor Masterman's question, it would be Janelle. And so Janelle, who she works with all of the groups in terms of community projects and things like that. And so that's why we're proposing that it is Janelle that would do these circulations. And it's meant to be more of a flag to people that you do need to be in consultation with the town before you can request that letter of support. I hope that answers the question.
You want to throw that dog a ribeye or something over there? Something to chew on for a bit? Councillor Kinghorn.
Yeah, please do. She's getting my dog excited over here. I have to agree with the rest of council's comments, except I appreciate when it comes to council and it's in that public meeting format, a letter of support, and we talk about it and we agree to it or disagree. But I like it being public, where the members of the public are privy to this letter and what's happened and why we didn't support it. I like it that way more so than an email exchange. And it doesn't happen that often. I think we've had Kara, you can probably tell me, but I don't think it's been more than a handful on this term. So I would love to see it stay the way it is, but vent it out like you've done in the policy. There's obviously some that have no right coming to council or shouldn't come to council, and I support you on all of those.
Back to Councillor Cooey.
Thanks. I'm happy it's not my dog today. I appreciate what Councillor Kinghorn has said, and I agree that there's a lot of merit to having it in the public. There's, the media involved and obviously public involved. The only thing I think we need to have is there will be that odd time where there is a time factor. And I think we need to be able to have some flexibility to do it outside of a council meeting because there may be that time where we can't wait for 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. All good points from everybody. I just want a point of clarification going back to what Councillor Masterman asked. Reviewed by the Community Economic Development Division. What is the Community Economic Development Division? I have no idea what that is. So I don't understand why that's in the document.
Maybe I'll let Janelle answer that.
Oh, geez. Hi. I think am the Community Economic Development Division. And so the intent with this particular circulation stream was exactly what Kara had spoke to with regards to Councillor Cooey's question. It's just a matter of ensuring that any request that comes for a letter of support will have already connected with me. So it's very unlikely that we would ever see a letter of support being requested for something that will cost the town money that we aren't already privy to. So this is just putting it into language so that we can point back to this policy if they've happened to skip past some of our regular processes. And so what we will strive to do is when the community projects policy comes back to council for review, we will see this letter of support policy be in alignment with that. So I'm not quite sure if that answered your question, but currently I am Community Economic Development. And and I am a staff of 1.
Well, thanks, Janelle. As your division, that's pretty heavy being a division. So good luck with that, and thanks for your efforts.
So that was done, Michael, when we kind of were figuring out what to do with the ECDev task force and everything else, and then the community piece. And Janelle was already doing a lot of that stuff, because you and I both know that a lot of the economic development is just support given by the town of High River to some of these events that create economic development and everything else, blah, blah, blah. So that's why the two departments were kind of combined, and that's Janelle on her own leading the whole thing. So like you say, good luck, Janelle.
It's all good. It just sounded like a really big thing.
It will be one day.
It is, right, Janelle?
Of course.
Councillor Masterman.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. So I really like what Kathy said, Councillor Cooey said about these things coming to council and we have an open discussion that everybody can hear if they choose. And to the concern that might just put pressure on people to get things in on time, I think it kind of comes back to your lack of planning does not constitute an emergency for us. You are planning something, you know that one of the steps you want to have is a letter of support from council, then get it in on time. Don't get it to us and say, I need this by tomorrow. So I think we can, in fact, and I know I've mentioned a few times when we have had email discussion around these things that I don't like email discussions around things. It's great to be included and everything, but I would much rather have a discussion in an open meeting where I can look at people in the eye and say, I don't like it, or I really like it. And it doesn't get so, I almost said snippy. I'm the worst one for that. So I'm not saying the rest of you are snippy. Well, you don't have to nod so quickly. You could shake your head like, anyway. And the other thing that it's interesting, what would we do? And this is purely a what if. What if somebody who is looking for funding, say from CVAC, which we wouldn't, for a project that we wouldn't know about in advance, says to council, we'd really like council support before we go to CVAC. Now, presumably Janelle would say, well, that's not how it works. But what if Janelle was away? What if, things were different? And I just think that, we just kind of have to be on board that if you're bringing something to CVAC, you don't, we have the final say if it's over a certain amount of money anyway, but that you can't just come to council and try to add weight to your application to CVAC by getting council support. So thanks.
You don't get to lobby council first. I agree 100%. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. And just kind of to speak to what Councillor Masterman said about the whole timing, I agree, because I think with the policy that the groups or whoever's asking for the letter of support would go through Janelle first, and then it would come in a timely fashion for a public discussion of council, because I agree about the email back and forth isn't healthy, as well as people should be planning accordingly. Like if they want a letter of support from council, and I'm sure, Kara, it's going to be clearly marked in the policy about time frames and whatnot. So I don't foresee that there would be a problem with someone needing it right away, because that is poor planning on their part.
No further questions, Kara? Got what you need? Right on. Thank you very much. We'll move over to Sarah and the JPA 3. I don't see Sarah on here. Who's speaking to?
Maybe Khalid.
Thank
Looks
you,
like
Mr.
you
Mayor.
are now.
I know. Let me just open the report here quickly and go through it quick here. Okay. The report.
Sorry, Khalid, one of the downfalls of doing the Zoom stuff, hey, we can't
I
see
know.
who's in the room right now.
I know.
Sometimes or whether they're waiting somewhere. So we'll give you a minute. We're fine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Just give me 1 second here. I just get the report actually. But I'm going to start, before I find the report, if I could recall what I want to say. I don't have to see the report anyway. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon, Council. So I'm just going to give a quick background. I don't have access to the report, so I'm just going to use my memories to share what I understand and the situation and where we wanted some direction from member of council. As we know, the regulations that were established in 2017 mandated the board to promote long-term sustainability of the region, to ensure that environmentally responsible land use planning and growth management and efficient use of land, and also develop policies regarding the coordination of regional infrastructure and investment and services within the region. And so based on that, the CMRB board established committees, including TAG committees, which is Technical Advisory Group, which represent staff from the 10 municipalities, and they meet and discuss the outlines of the plan, some of the overall policies and policy frameworks and whatnot. And the idea of JPA came through that discussion, which has been an ongoing for some time. But unfortunately, to date, there are some questions and some debates from some municipalities. And so when they have shown the area within the Highway 2A corridor, which is between High River and Okotok, on the proposed regional growth plan, the county raised some concerns about why that land has to be included in the growth plan, because they believe that we have an area structure plan in place, and we do have also a FICA agreement between the town of Okotok, High River, and the county, and they see that including this land within the growth plan would just highlight and bring more red tapes and more restrictions, and that will take away their freedom, and they maybe even question their authorities in how they wanted to allow development to take place within that corridor. The consultant has always indicated that it's a major corridor. It has land use. It comes with transportation, servicing issues. It will accommodate a lot of future industrial growth, even maybe residential growth as well. And hence, it's important to include that land within the growth plan. So at the end of the day, we look at the overall benefit of the region rather than benefits for the individual municipalities. The county continued to raise some concerns, and all the concerns that I've seen that they've raised were around the freedom, the authority they have, the extra restrictions, the red tapes, and all that. But there wasn't any strong rationale provided regarding exactly why removal of the land would really help remove those concerns. It was just, that's the whole JPA planning exercise. It's a new tool and mechanism for the region, and none of the member municipalities were used to it. So it's a game changer in many ways, and it does bring some long-term goals that will allow the region to really follow sustainable goals and try to achieve things that are really against what we've been doing in the past. Because if you look at what we've been doing in the last 7 decades or more, it's just proven right now beyond any doubt that it's not working. It just doesn't work. We have failed our environment, we're failing the future generations, we're failing our communities, and it's just creating so many issues than solutions. And so the regional planning itself become an issue. And I think for me, the main problem that caused the disagreement among the member municipalities, I think my humble opinion is that we could not agree on what is regional planning and why do we need regional planning, even though it is provincial mandate. But member municipalities struggled all the time to understand why do we need regional planning. And I think for me, regional planning, it deals with the efficient placement of land use activities, infrastructure, settlement growth across the region. And it's not only within single municipality. And the main goal behind it is for the sustainable growth of the region. It may not be for the sustainable growth of the municipality, but it's definitely for the sustainable growth of the region that will have some positive impacts on all municipalities. So we have these discussions, and nobody was trying to really settle that argument and understand why we're at the table and what do we want to achieve and what not, so that people don't come down the road and argue on policies, because this is now a policy and we have left all other items and now we're arguing on some policies. And I think what I have not seen and observed through all these meetings and all those years, that people, when they come and join these meetings, including the consultant, member municipalities, for the most part, they all raise challenges, concerns, issues, problems, but they never focused on what does regional planning could bring to our region and what are those benefits that we need to work together to be able to achieve our shared goals and whatnot. But that's not the case. And so the discussion, even through and within the technical advisory group meetings, it all centered around those concerns and issues and never focused around the opportunities that the proposed regional planning could bring to the region. And so now we're here. The consultant brought in their last workshop with us and shown a larger area, in fact, because when they've, let me go a step back. The consultant met with the individual municipalities. They met with us about the same JPA area for the Highway 2A. They met with the county and they met with Okotoks. The town position was, we are here in an exercise that talks about the benefits of the region, and we talk about regional planning. And we thought that anything that works for the region, and that based on the extensive experience of the consulting group, that they see that the inclusion of this area is very critical based on the preferred scenarios, based on the growth analysis, employment analysis, and everything else. If the consultant believe that this is very critical piece of the growth plan, we don't have a problem. Whatever works for the region and that bring the best to the region, we have no issues with it. And at the same time, we did highlight that what we have right now, Afika, what we have, which is AFICA. AFICA, it hasn't been structured. It is not functional as we speak. And there isn't any dedicated staff that are taking care of it. So it may not, we don't even know right now that how can we achieve any specific vision for the corridor if we're talking about AFICA. And so we left it at their hand. At the same time, the county was very clear that they don't want to see this JPA area in the plan. But they, based on my observation, they could not present strong and compelling case to convince the consultant to remove the area from the plan. Okotok at the same time, they don't have an objection, but they objected the whole plan when the consultant enlarged the area and added additional land north of Okotok, between Okotok and the city. And so they started to make some concerns or noise, and then the consultant and CMRB administration decided to call for a meeting between the three municipalities, High River, Okotok, and the county. And we did meet last week. And at that meeting, Okotok raised their concern strongly against inclusion the land north of Okotok. And for sure, the next version of the plan we've received on Friday, that additional piece north of Okotok was removed from the plan, and they left only the area within the corridor south of Okotok. And so, as you are aware, the county wanted to make sure that they need to understand the town's position. At the same time, they want to understand the position from the town of Okotok. So they talked to Okotok at their IMC meeting, and they talked to us here at our IMC meeting, and they're waiting for us to come to the next IMC meeting in March with a position from the town, whether we are going to push towards removal of the land from the proposed growth plan, or do we support including the land in the growth plan. And our position still remains the same, that as long as it serves the region and it brings the best to the region, our position, we don't have anything to say remove it. And even the small piece that they added north of the town here and south of the corridor, we also told them the same thing. We need rationale, we need information that explain to us why it was added, and if it brings benefit to the region with no impacts on our community, then we will have no problem. I see Sarah is here. She may also take a chance to just highlight a few points here, if she is available.
Yes, thank you, Khalid. I think that you've covered everything. I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to add here. I mean, when you look at the corridor, it is huge. It has over 9,000 acres that's slated for growth. In addition, also they have maybe a major development in the future going to happen in Alderside and whatnot. So, and the development in the corridor, definitely, it's all going to be serviced by the town. And so there's impacts. Development of the corridor will have impacts on the town of High River and Okotok. And that's why we always get circulated through on any planning proposals that come across and whatnot. Now, whether it's that process working or not, it's difficult to really comprehend, because sometimes we say no and things happen. Sometimes we say yes and things happen. And so it's hard really identify whether what we have today is really working well or not.
Thanks, Khalid. This has been a good one when this first came about at the workshop. Wasn't the last one on Friday, but I think it was the one before that they brought this up, and it's always mind-boggling to me that we hire these consultants and we ask for their professional opinion and we send them on the way and they come back with your ideas and they did that and everybody flipped out. How dare you do this? Like it was embarrassing in my mind. I'm sorry. And that was when this JPA 3, they had just removed High River right out of it. And it was just the MD Okotoks and then north of Okotoks, basically along the new water line corridor is what they were adding into it. And I can agree, that's a very, very important growth piece as to what's going to go along that water line, et cetera, et cetera. But I wasn't offended at all that they took High River out. In fact, I was sitting there going, that's not a bad idea, maybe. So, you know, but at the same time, it's like, well, no, we do have a FICA, and yes, we haven't been really aggressive with it, but there's not a lot going on either right now. So I'm wide open to hear what council's thoughts are on this that you and I can take back to CMRB, because it's, you know, we had also asked, well, why don't we have, instead of 3 JPAs, why don't we have 4? We'll leave a FICA intact as it is now, and that will be JPA 4. And the MD or the county and Okotoks and north of Okotoks and Calgary, they can have their JPA 3. So, Sarah, where is it as it stands now? Is it according to the map that is in our plan? Because I know that I wasn't able to attend that workshop on Friday. So is it according to the?
Right. So the consultant has actually come back to us since we had that meeting with the 3 municipalities. So they sent a follow-up email since this report was written, and now they're suggesting that all of the land that's north and east of Okotoks, all of the water line land, be taken out. And basically it's the land in the Highway 2A industrial corridor, as well as some land in the south of Okotoks, and keep the land that is in northeast High River. The consultant really, I think, responded to what Okotoks was saying, that they were concerned about the potential implications for having the lands north and east of Okotoks, not necessarily because it's not the right thing to do, but it is something that was brought to everyone's attention very soon, very close to the deadline of March 1st. So now they're suggesting taking that out and really focusing on that Alderside corridor, but still include some land in Okotoks and the land in High River. So it really is, it really does include land from all 3 municipalities.
Okay, without taking all of town of High River and all of Okotoks, is that, so they've just sort of
exactly, it's
FICA, left a FICA alone, but
yeah, and then added a little part of northeast High River, same as what it was before. I mean, that land isn't in an area structure plan right now. There aren't any proposals right now for the development in that area, because it's not the land that the town is considering annexing. It is what's in northeast High River right now. But that being said, I don't think that there would be much of a downside in including that. So the town is part of the GPA, and we would have that partnership with the rest of the municipalities.
I don't know if I want much to do with that water line north. I don't know if I want to be tied to that thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're touting that that's going to be an easy thing to do, and it looks to me like it's going to be a nightmare to do, but that's their thing. So I just don't understand, like, why Why not just have High River, Okotoks and the Alderside corridor, the 2A corridor, and just have that as the JPA 3, period, done.
I think that's basically what it's going to be. Like the consultant, like in their new diagram, they took out all of the water line stuff. So it's really just right in the south by the Sheep River, by the highway. So
what's your guys' question?
Our strategic question is whether the council, like, let me get out the question exactly. Is council supportive of continuing to include the Highway 2A industrial area structure plan as a JPA? And I had put either the original or the expanded version. I suppose now that we have a new diagram from the consultant, it really is the original version, the version which included the water line, or the scaled down version that just includes a little bit of land in South Okotoks, the land in High River, and the Alderside corridor.
Okay, so it's whether do we still want to be a part of this thing or not? Do we still want to be tied to Highway 2A with Okotoks in the county? Or not? That's really now
right.
The county is saying what? No, we don't want to have this as any part of any JPA within this growth plan.
Exactly. They're really
so that we are doing High River, Okotoks in the county are all together. We're kind of doing our own thing, which everything still has to go through the, thanks, Khalid. So everything still has to go through CMRB with anything that we do, right?
Well, it's interesting because the county really doesn't want to have their growth confined or directed to a certain area. Yeah. They stated in the meeting that they didn't necessarily know where their growth areas were, so they didn't want to be constrained. And yes, they would, if they did propose any new area structure plans within their boundaries at all, they would need to go through the CMRP process. However, as our experience has been, they can have growth without the formalization of an area structure plan. So we believe that it would be a benefit to everyone in the region to have some more formalized planning to direct growth to specific areas.
And Okotoks?
Okotoks is not necessarily against having a JPA in general. They had concerns about including the waterline land, particularly so late in the process.
Okay, Right, sorry, Sarah, just to speed things up a little bit. I'm going to go to questions from council if there are any. I don't see anybody's hand up right now, but Councillor Masterman, I'm open on this one.
Yeah, so I guess I would just like a bit of clarification whether the county is still in favor of AFICA. We're part of that together, and part of that suggests a certain amount of give and take and negotiation and discussion. And even though AFICA has not been overly active recently, but as the mayor pointed out, there hasn't been a whole lot happening. Like, I think that, well, I guess I'm just going to say it. Like, I think this kind of boils down to the county really wants nothing to do with anything CMRB related, and that has even a hint of CMRB. And I mean, I don't pretend to know this issue really, really well, but I'm certainly in favor of this area continuing to be in that JPA3 area. And but I would like to know, has there been any indication from the county that it wants out of Afika too?
Mhm. The county has not given us any indication that they want out of FICA. However, they've also not given us any indication that they would like to resume having meetings about Afika or having a clear structure or dedicated staff and meetings for Afika. The county still fulfills all of their obligations to send Okotoks and High River all of their development permits and subdivision applications in that area as per the ASP. And they do talk about how they believe that Afika is a better, in their opinions, a better model for dealing with growth in this area rather than CMRB, because they believe that there would be less red tape. However, another way to look at that is if we did have this as a formalized joint planning area in the Calgary Metropolitan Region plan, a growth plan, then perhaps Afika would be less necessary because we could deal with all of our negotiations through CMRB. So there might be arguments that that would support this change actually being less red tape and less onerous, because we would be doing it anyway and we wouldn't have to have a separate process through Afika.
I'm going to jump in for a second, Sarah, because yeah, to be fair, none of us are pushing to meet about Afika. Nobody, not Okotoks, not the county, not the town of High River. None of us have asked to meet or dedicate staff or anything like that. And I can't agree with the statement that being involved with CMRB might be less red tape. I'll struggle with that one because of the way that thing's operating. I think having one or the other, I don't know if you have a FICA and it's joint, that gets a little muddy. So I think it's kind of pick one, and whether we want this thing to be in or out of the CMRB. So go to Carol, please.
Sorry, can I interrupt? Can we stop screen sharing, please?
Yeah, I think thanks, Khalid.
Thank you.
Go to Carol.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass, and thank you, Sarah and Khalid. My question is going back to Khalid's comment about philosophically speaking. Do you feel that this joint area number 3 and the whole concept of regional planning is of great benefit to High River?
I think that it is not. I think that the benefit really comes from the region overall. I really do. If we're looking at how it benefits High River as a municipality, I'm not sure if it really does. However, I believe that our administration really does believe that the more areas of potential significant growth that can be formalized in this document and have growth directed to those areas in a way that the municipalities and the members have agreed to go above and beyond just the status quo to ensure that there is smart growth, that there's compact growth. We truly believe that it's going to positively impact the region overall. I can't say necessarily that this is going to really positively affect High River, I would really just go back to it being a positive impact on the region. Also, that being said, we have had some issues or concerns with growth happening in ways that we're not necessarily supportive of around our boundaries. So looking at it through that lens, I think that it would positively impact the town because this area of growth would be formalized and would have to follow all of the requirements that a JPA would have as part of the growth plan document.
I think, if I may, Mr. Mayor, just one more. It's a great question. Just one more point that I would like to highlight. With AFICA and the existing area structure plan, the town is on the hook and regarding servicing, because that's the only opportunity for servicing the corridor will be High River. And it's a question for us. Are we willing to commit to service the corridor with water for the next few years? And that's a bigger question because we know what we have right now regarding water and whether we have even sufficient for supporting growth within our boundaries. But having the corridor in the regional plan, it will open the door for potential coordination of regional infrastructure investment and services within the corridor. And this is, for me, a very critical piece. By taking it out, you're shutting the door among that opportunity, and the town would be the only source to provide water for that region in the future.
I appreciate your comments a lot because that's where I'm kind of coming from a philosophical perspective, is that if people can partner up in a positive manner and share costs and do smart growth, because I really agreed with your comments, Khalid, about we have to think about the future generations here and we don't want to burden future councils or residents with just this chaos. I think it's very important to have smart planning in place. So I just think that it sounds idealistically like a really good thing. And I think it's a case of committing to it and putting also pressure that it is a smart plan. And you know what? If people don't have faith in CMRB, it's our responsibility as a municipality to bring the faith into CMRB. Be a strong voice about smart regional planning. Instead of just kind of joking about how ineffectual they are, make a difference. Like start working towards smart regional planning so that we are benefiting our region as well as secondary, of course, High River will benefit. So that's just, I know I'm getting my advocacy hat on a bit there, but I think, you know what, High River, we can do this if we believe in it. So there you go. I'm off my soapbox now.
I'll speak to that one because I really appreciate what you're saying, Carol, and that was my dream at the start too. And there's been a few that are pounding the table, but it's been very, very frustrating. And the problem with the CMRB plan is that, and my fear with the whole thing is that because of all the individual interests and the strength of a lot of these voices at this table, that in order to get this done and meet the deadline that the Alberta government has put on this thing, even though we've asked for an extension so that I'd rather take more time and put a plan together like what you're talking about, but they're rushing us now. They're really pushing things, and we asked for an extension. We only got half of what we asked for from Minister Allard, who is no longer now, but maybe Minister McIver will grant us an extension. He's not quite. So possibly we can get this thing done. My biggest fear of all of this is that millions and millions of dollars are being spent, and we are going to end up with exactly what we had the day we started all of this. all it's going to be doing is putting it into a document, and we're still collaborating and everything else the way we were before. So I really appreciate what Sarah and Khalid are saying, and I can buy into that for the full regional thing and not have us just isolated kind of outside in the middle of this monster. If CMRP is going to exist, you know, I'm buying into what you guys are saying, that if it's going to exist, we need to be a part of it. We can't have these little islands of something else in the middle that CMRB isn't supposed to be, have any say in. Like, it's just doesn't work that way when you're in the middle of all this. So we've all got that dream, Carol. I'm with you 100%, and lots of us have pounded the table over the last couple of years about exactly that, trying to just keep CMRB together. The only reason why it is together is because it's mandated by the government that we have to be. Otherwise, it would be CRP. It had been falling apart a long time ago.
That's fine.
I'm going to go to Dawn.
I understand that. I just,
Yeah.
you know, I just think that we have to have a voice. Like, if we're going to be part of it, we have to have a voice. So I appreciate that. Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass.
Dawn?
One big problem with this whole process is called politics. And when that gets involved, you're not going to get too far too quickly. It'd be nice just to have a nice regional plan in there that everybody has to adhere to without everybody having objections on every single point. Going back to when we started VICA in 2010, it's like 11 years ago. It was going to be a three-way partnership, and each person would reap 33.3% rewards of the profits of the entire endeavor. And each person was supposed to put something into it. And High River's contribution was water servicing, able to provide the water, not free water, but just provide the water, the amount of water they needed, which was a phenomenal amount of water by the time of build out. And Okotoks, when we were looking at the partnership, Okotoks was contributing nothing other than being there. And the county was saying, well, we're going to share profits. And we said, well, what are the profits? And that's taxation. But those taxes were going to be net profits. In other words, all of the development costs for setting up the region, the corridor, etc., would be taken off. So there would be very little left. So it wasn't a real good idea or partnership, and it's actually only a partnership on paper only. The county says it's a volunteer partnership now. But you know, we've expressed, well, we want to get back to the table to iron out the terms of reference of the VICA. What we just agreed in a partnership agreement on a broad overall agreement that we would be involved, but nobody's sat down and hammered out all of the things. There's a lot of work to put together a VICA now. So the county is actually not even moved forward. They are setting up their own water supply arrangements and thinking that they can't rely on the High River. And they've always said, whenever we brought it up, yes, we'd like to have a meeting. But They never get around to it. They just said they're going under the auspices of none of the other partners are in agreement. So if they weren't included as part of a JPA, they would just continually put it off, and we wouldn't really have a partnership in the area or any say in the area until after we get the terms of reference hammered out. So technically, if we weren't part of the JPA, which would make us partners more than voluntary, it would be mandatory partnership. And the JPA would govern that, and that's the county is opposed, as all of the counties are, to any further regulation on what they want to do. And it's not only in this area, but all other areas of the county. So it's, I don't personally believe that we're ever going to move forward with a PICA under the present terms. It's an impossibility for us to supply the water, all of the water needs for that area, even after the county has set up their own. So it just doesn't. I know what they don't want. They don't want anything to do with the Calgary Regional Partnership Metropolitan Zone. So it's a tough one to decide on. I know they're looking forward to us to say that we oppose being part of the JPA, but it's really not going to make any difference one way or another.
Well said, Don. And there's no other speakers, so I'm going to throw my thought out after this discussion, and that is to go with the consultant's recommendation as it sits, because that's what Sarah and Khalid, that's kind of where to stay with, keep this JPA, because I agree with Don. If is just sort of floating out there, and what others have said, that to actually have some structure and some meat in this thing without too much effort, we can do it through CMRB probably better than we ever will with the FICA. This is just, I know that won't appease the county, but that's okay. I think it's in the best interest. If any other council members have anything different to say about that, you're more than welcome to speak up. It's like everybody's on the same page. I like it. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good for you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all you needed?
That's all we needed. Thank
That's all
you.
we needed. Yeah, thank you.
So simple, right?
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And Khalid, question and answer for a few minutes here. We got another meeting at 2 o'clock, so nothing?
I do.
Oh, sorry, Carol.
That's okay. I was just wondering, I've had a couple of citizens concerned about the new recycle bins, so I'm just kind of curious. Did I forget that, like, have we discussed that we needed new recycle bins, or where did these come? Like, what, I guess, propelled us to get new recycle bins? And the style, I guess it's the hinging seems to be quite snappy and stuff. So I was just kind of curious about where this came from.
Riley, Chris?
Sure, I can answer that. We actually, our contract was up with our old recycle provider, so we went to RFP for a new provider. And so now we have a new provider. We're saving a little bit of money doing it, but a new provider comes with new bins, as we don't own the bins. They are provided by the recycler. And so that's why we have new bins. Peter's looking at the doors about taking the springs off and seeing if we can make it a little bit easier. So that's where we're at right now, and that's why we changed bins.
Okay, because I just wonder, because apparently I haven't been over there yet to see, but apparently the cardboard one is quite narrow, that not only is it about flattening, but the people have to cut the cardboard down quite a bit, as well
Okay.
as like people have mentioned, and I know they're speaking kindly, but they're questioning whether someone of my height could actually effectively recycle now.
Sure,
So
I haven't seen them myself yet, so I know Peter is looking at this, and we're not the only ones who have used bins like this. So he's making some inquiries into that as well in terms of some of the challenges. But yeah, you do have to squish it flatter now too. You're right.
Okay, and just, I guess, and I know Councillor Masterman went there on the weekend, so I'm looking forward to hearing from him. But I guess my concern, this is just in sight unseen, that for safety, if those hinges are really snappy, you don't want anyone's arm or whatever caught in there, so.
Bruce, we shouldn't
guess-
have to shred before it's shredded, so.
No, can I jump in quickly? I think, one thing I wasn't aware of was that it's been quite a problem out there apparently with people just throwing all kinds of mixed stuff, with the doors being so big on the old system, that there was a lot of contamination of which requires a lot more sorting after, it's my understanding. And honestly, Carol, I can't, I wish you'd go out there and look at them yourself and try it yourself. Definitely when I was out there last week, I saw people who were not quite as tall as me, having no problem with them, and people of all ages as well. The only problem I had is I had to have one hand free to hold the door open while I put my stuff in. So, which isn't really a big issue for me. But I don't know, and I certainly didn't have, a door snapping closed on me like a trap or anything. But again, we obviously have to be open to, to complaints by the public, and if some are having trouble, then I guess we need to do what we need to do. But to take the hinges off, you might as well just take the doors off, because the doors aren't going to stay open without the hinges, and they'll just be a pain too. So I don't know. I'd really appreciate, Carol, if you could go out and actually have a look at them yourself and just see. And I'll go out again this week and try to pay attention to the people using them and just seeing what kind of issues they're having. So thanks for the discussion.
So Mayor Snodgrass, may I just speak to that?
Yep.
Because I'm glad you actually mentioned Councillor Masterman about the one arm, because I actually know someone who only has one arm. So that is actually going to affect the recycling capability. And so I appreciate that. And I definitely will go check it out. But I'm glad you kind of mentioned that, because I thought, oh, that person won't be able to recycle very effectively now. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, now I feel really badly, because I came across very insensitive to one-arm residents, and I didn't intend that, but that's a very, very good point. And even if people have both arms, oftentimes one arm is not functioning as well because of injury or a disability of some kind, and so yeah, good points. Thank you.
Any other questions? Meeting adjourned, 1:41. Thank you very much. Well done. See you at 2 o'clock.